Okay. Yes, you sent me something to review, and
No, actually, it's what I wanted to talk to you about was for Sensorica, seeing if there could be some grants in the U.S. That we could partner with Sensorica to get a U.S. grant.
yes, definitely. Actually, I'm submitting one today for a project that we have in the US. Funny. Let me pull up your message because you needed me to. Okay, it's going to be.
It's too late. I already I handed in the grant for the web application already, and I actually
Okay.
just did it. I did it on my own. So yeah, I ended up just submitting it on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to connect with you, Lauren, but we weren't able because when you were able, I wasn't able. And
I get it totally. But I as I was
yeah,
doing it
really,
though, I did kind of imagine if we had a stronger network and we're better coordinated, like what it would look like if we were super coordinated, and it just seems like it's there's like one grant and you get endorsements or something for that one grant, but it would be great if we could make it super easy for everyone who's writing a grant to get easy endorsements and some easy to schedule way where I was kind of talking about these kind of like building up a network of people who would just do these like small things for each other. It just seems like everyone is working on their own things, but even like we're so bad at
yeah,
shamelessly promoting each other.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking of like I have this like African group full of like able-bodied people with time on their hands. Could we not get them signed up so that when like you, Vinicius, when you have a Gitcoin grant up, then even if they don't have any money, say if there was like $300 in the pot or something, we could transfer that to people with Gitcoin accounts, and then they can just like someone did that for me. Like he had a Gitcoin grant up, and I didn't know how to transfer anything
Yeah.
into like the transfer was too difficult, but he transferred money to me, and then I just transferred it to the Gitcoin, and I was able to do that. And then he used that to like it timed it by like 4 or something. So it's just frustrating to me, like if anyone in our network has an opportunity, I want it so that they can be like, hey, the opportunity is here, and we can mobilize a swarm of people to act on that. Like I just don't feel like that's happening cross organization.
Yeah.
yeah,
Great is mention. Yeah. You want to say something, Vinicius?
yeah. No, Anthony's here. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Anthony.
I wanted to. Hi, Anthony. I wanted to show you some of my reflections in this particular case. So this was triggered by the sponsor to our Green for Good project. Okay. So that the guy's name is Joshua Pierce, is this professor from Michigan Tech, now moved to Canada. Anyway, so he's an open source hardware professor. So he said, I like what you did with Greens for Good, your ability to connect to NGOs and local communities in Africa, South America, all these countries. He said, I see a good role for Sensorica in collaboration with academic institutions, with his university in this particular case, for funding to do some outreach. So and I said, well, that's what we do. I mean, universities, they don't spend time connecting to grassroots communities. They just do their science in their lab and then publish. Hopefully somebody will read it, but most of the time it's just a paper among tons of papers that come out today. There's an inflation of papers. Anyway, so academia is not connected, right? So anything they do has to be picked up and sometimes things are not discovered easily by people on the ground. So he said, well, this is a good marriage between Sensorica, an open innovation network, and the academia. So we have the science, we have the tinkering in the makerspace, and also we have the connection to grassroots communities. So we can have high impact projects. We can work on high impact projects. So then it occurred to me that, you know, this was lurking for some time about community services. So I created 2 community services in Sensorica. One of them is it's funding. Now, here's the idea of the funding community. What is a community service? A community service is a service to the Sensorica community, okay? And then you can go a step further and talk about ecosystem services. These are services offered to an ecosystem, okay? Which means your staff, which means Vinicius and all that. So what it means is that within Sensorica, there's people that come and they say, hey, Anthony comes with a project and say, hey, I want to build this machine for, you know, this new digital fabrication machine. Okay. But I'm just a technical guy, you know, so I need somebody to work with me to grow a community. I need also somebody to work with me that knows its way around to get some funding. You know, normally people that launch a project that have some technical skills, have some passion, but don't have these skills. So a community service is a group of people that recycle themselves, okay, to do grant applications for any project or venture within the Sensorica ecosystem. Okay, so these are people that have worked already on funding proposals in the past in different projects, and they get together as a team because they have this skill that they have developed, and because they can work as a team. Okay.
Tibi,
yeah.
Wouldn't the name community backing be a better name than service, in a sense that you're backing the
very good suggestion.
You're backing the community, right? You're wherever you are in the planet, you're backing the community. It's true.
Service is not so well. Yeah, it's a very good suggestion. You know what? I'm going to seriously think about it. But just to continue like that, you know, so then we said, well, what happens in Sensorica happens at a larger scale. So there is a lot of organizations out there that do not have the skills to get funding. Okay, there's a lot of projects out there that do not have skills, not just within Sensorica, but throughout the ecosystem. So what if we get a group of people? What if we get a group of people that only specializes on that? And guess what? Well, they're paid a percentage of the funding that they bring to the project. So they go around and they find projects that have potential, okay, and they do work for them. They get them the funding and they get a percentage, and then they go for the next one. You know what I'm saying? So these are like nomad within the large ecosystem. These are nomad.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. But you also need like people who will get like you can massively increase the amount of grants that you get, but we also need an army of people who will just do shit without explaining to them, like who will give a testimonial. Like, we need a testimonial on WISP, and you don't have to explain to them an hour what WISP is. They will just come and be like, WISP is fantastic. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, every time you try to get someone to do something, the expenditure of like what you need to do barely matches like the little favor that people will do for you. So I feel like, you know, we just have like unhurtable cats, and we just need an army of people who will just do shit without like asking questions and having a debate in like, you know, like an hour meeting. Like, no, just do it.
Well, that's it. So when I say a group of people that offer these backing or services to find funding for projects, they're not just writing proposals. They are sitting down, they're thinking strategically, they try to understand the venture, the project, they formulate value propositions. They look for let me show you what we have done here with Sensorica. For example, they look for chemistry within the ecosystem, meaning here's a grant. It's too big for Sensorica and nobody will give it just for Sensorica. Let's say it's $1 million grant. In order for Sensorica to get this grant, you need some type of consortium. You need to work with an academic lab. You need to work with an NGO, and maybe you need to work with a firm. You need to present yourself as a larger body in order to get $1 million. Nobody will give Sensorica alone $1 million, right? So these people think about forging partnerships. They think about formulating value propositions on top of just writing the proposal and knowing where to apply and writing the proposal and applying, providing this help for funding, the whole thing. Okay. And in case of crowdfunding, if that is the source, well, they manage a crowdfunding campaign, which also includes communication, defining the value proposition, perks, this, that, you know what I'm saying? So it's a complex service, but it's all these skills and activities that a small projects cannot have. Like Anthony, in his basement working on Rugged Mag, or I don't remember exactly the name.
No, it's the name, yeah.
He doesn't have the time to work on the machine, and read scientific and technical papers, and at the same time run a crowdfunding campaign or build partnerships to. I think this is required. And just to finish the idea, because it triggered me, I've been thinking about these things and implementing them for the past 2-3 days. This group can be formed with individuals from different groups. So if there's one guy from Sensorica, well, he knows the Sensorica reality. He knows how to put it in words. He knows how to formulate the value proposition. If one of the partners in this group of community service for funding comes from I don't know, from Utopia, then they know that reality there. So they can coach their teammates, on the funding initiative. Okay. So you cut the time a lot because you have a representative. Some of it can come from you. So now we do have a team in the Sensorica, and what I'm nurturing now is the community service, not the ecosystem service. And I told everybody, I said, listen, guys, if we do it well for Sensorica, then you guys can recycle yourselves outside of the ecosystem and go offer your services to any project out there. Just go random on GitHub and find a project that you say, oh my God, these guys are really onto something, but they don't know how to communicate it. They don't know how to sell it. They don't have. So you can propose them, hey, would you like some money? We can work together. You don't pay us now, but if we bring you I don't know, $100,000, you give us 5% or 10%, So that's the kind of service that it's a push and pull at the same time, that they can engage in. But it's an expertise that the ecosystem needs badly, because there's plenty of good ideas that are just rotting, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the idea of Sensorica in general seems to be like, what pulls me to it is that it's a team of people. It's an ecosystem. You don't have to do everything yourself, but you can find collaborators to do stuff that you don't know how to do very well.
Yeah, but what we don't have, it's like by creating this thing, by naming something, is that people will identify with this and they will form a team and they will give themselves some tools. So you create something coherent that you can push a button and call these people to help you. You know what I'm saying? Instead of you looking for who has done funding in other projects, and then you find a guy and you find another guy, but you don't find a team that comes with an arsenal of tools and deploy that within a week or two. You know what I'm saying? You still have to form that team. So there's still a lot of work. It's not automated within the community. So what I'm trying to do here is to make something that's identifiable. Yeah,
Tibi, I'm just occurring here right now. What Lauren just as a proposal for a grant, it's technology simplified for really beginning grassroots movements around anything that can be socializable, that can be put into the commons for that little community or for that neighborhood, or for that's a very early stage thing, where technology is being appropriated, right? It's being appropriated as a commons, where people by themselves can easily group around it and do whatever the community or this group of people wants to do, right? So it's a very emergent dynamics. It has some complexity in it. It's not systematized. The technology is not, say, a project management platform, right? WISP is not a project management platform. It's just a technology to connect, to simplify, and to connect people to do whatever they want to do, right? In a very communal or community-driven way, right? So I love that idea. That idea is great. And what you're proposing is a level, is a more federated thing, is a more legal alike thing. Like you're joining the pieces to give support to a venture, to endeavor to be, let's say, collectivized, or to be commodified, and people, and it can grow, right? So it's a level ahead. It's a level above. It's a level above what WISP is. So, and the type of thing that I'm.
It's really hard to hear you, Vinny. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of scratching noise.
Yeah, it's kind of scratching. Yeah.
Maybe there's someone touching the microphone.
Better?
Ah, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it better now?
yeah.
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 Yeah, and the type of thing that I have been doing is from the past years is more of a cultural passage from a very extractive system, society systems, to a very open abundance and accessible one in a very peer-to-peer manner, right? Where you see, Taudao just finished the 11 Gitcoin round, right? With $737. What is $737 in the extractive system? It's nothing, right? But in abundance system like Taudao, abundance dynamic like Taudao is a huge amount of money, a huge amount, because people are not accessing the money to pay their bills. As I said to Anthony 2 things ago, they are doing a process to become more regeneratives. So they are establishing new wealth generators, new wealth systems, new wealth dynamics. So the fiat money or the crypto money is a propellant, for them to make the transition for a very life-centric, regenerative footprint. So what I'm trying to convey here is we have 3 different dynamics here. 4, I would say, because Anthony actually is I don't know if I got it right, Anthony. You were an entrepreneur, right? And you were seeking a collaborative environment to let's say to build up what you want to develop, right? If I got it right. So
yeah, I mean, it'd be great to have that.
What I'm questioning here is, how can we bound these 4 dynamics together? Because I think that they're out there, right?
What are the 4?
I just said is happening. What Tibi wants to propose is just a manner of making it visible for all the sensoricans. What Lauren just proposed to a grant is something very feasible. So how could we convey something that can talk in between all these things that we're doing?
Well, what are the 4 things?
That's my question.
What are the 4 things?
Yeah. I don't think I remember. It was like two meetings ago or something that we talked about it.
Vinny, you said that there are 4 things.
Well, I said 4 things is this backing of this community service, or community backing that you're proposing, coming out of an ecosystem dynamics of Sensorica, right? This is WISP technology, WISP very grassroots, very low-end technology platform that Louding is, Louding is proposing as a grant. And there's this individual collaborative dynamic as an endeavor, as entrepreneur that Anthony has been seeking to materialize. So there's four dimensions for what we're calling here a new way to generate wealth and distribute and access. And so how can we convey these four dimensions? That's my question.
You know, I've been wanting to develop a completely fictitious technology for a long time called flow tech, which is basically just selling. It's like what happens all the time, but more explicitly. You just sell a dream and pretend like you have this technology, but really in the background, but you don't tell anyone, it's just grassroots organizing. But you pretend like you just have this like amazing shit.
So you're going to describe the benefits of the technology, and then people are going to be like, whoa, that sounds great. And then you say, okay, this is how you do it. Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
But don't call it grassroots organizing, because then you won't get any investment and no one will be excited.
So you're going to call it flow tech instead?
Yeah, we're going to call it flow tech.
Okay, sounds good.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But like, you know, they have these things like for DAOs, like in order to be part of a DAO, you have to like give $1,000, and maybe to be part of this, you have to actually do something. You know, like one day, so one day during Kiko Lab, Daniel Harris had his Gitcoin grant up. It was running, and I had a total hissy fit, and I was like, okay, guys, like we need to do something. I want you to each donate $5 to this guy. I don't give a shit if you don't know him. We're just gonna do this, because I was so fed up. And you know, we raised like $1,000 with 20 people in 5 minutes. And I just feel like these opportunities go on all the time, that we just can't get our shit together to like, as a wider community, to actually do that. And I think it would be super inspiring if this happened. It's just no one knows how to do it. But I think there needs to be like two elements, are that what we need to think of ourselves as an ecosystem, not just like DAO stack ecosystem or a holochain ecosystem, but actually like these groups working together, and then go where the opportunities are. Because someone always has an opportunity. They know an important person, there's an opportunity, but then the network can't flow to it. There's no swarm. And then you actually need people who will just do stuff. They will just take orders and do it.
Yeah, but like, who does that on a regular basis with a large amount of labor time? It can't be for free, right? We need the connection between the contributions and the payoff.
I'm saying, I think we should start with just like mini contributions,
okay,
like a swarm of little contributions.
But are people supposed to get a return on investment for what the time they put in and their expertise and stuff, or is it like open loop, like open ended? You're just supposed to do it because it's an awesome project.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I think we should like record these, do little actions, try not to make it big and like unmanageable, but little actions, like for example, like time bound little actions, like you can recommend someone on LinkedIn. That's just a little thing. It's doable. It takes like 15 minutes. And if someone is applying for a grant, and all of a sudden they have 50 recommendations on LinkedIn, they are 10 more times likely to get this grant. You know what I'm saying? If a grant application has endorsements from a huge number of people. And so we don't have to like, these don't have to be like, you don't have to participate in a hackathon and build the software or anything like that. I'm just saying, let's start small with just doing little actions like this.
Okay. It seems like you could get an enormous number of little actions. even when you multiply it by 1,000, there might not add up to much. No, it's just a lot of different factors to, I mean, it's a great idea, and that has some history, I guess, with crowdsourcing, right?
I am saying if you combine little actions with
Yeah.
opportunities, like we're talking about this Gitcoin grant. This is a perfect thing. When someone has a Gitcoin grant, the opportunity is magnified by like 4 times. So anything that you get in up until a certain point, they times that. So if you donate $5 to this grant, then they'll match it by $15. So that's
Where
like
do they get the extra money?
that's how the grant works.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, if we use these micro actions, lots of micro actions, we have like 20 people from Africa who don't have a lot of money, but they have the time to do this. We can get them on MetaMask and then have one group do that for another group. And so everyone in the network, if someone has a Gitcoin grant, should be like, okay, shit, it's going to take me 10 minutes to send this payment by MetaMask, and I'm going to do it. And they're incentivized to do that. And then we can start multiplying the amount that we're getting in.
Sounds good.
What Lauren is saying, I actually has experienced this round 11 that happened on Bitcoin. And the thing is that if you pollinate micro contributions all over the ecosystem, all over the platform, all over the projects, you see, Anthony, the algorithm understands, they programmed this, they coded this. The algorithm understands that you're incentivizing the ecosystems as a whole, as a common, to evolve, to materialize all the projects in. So it's a very interesting and mathematical algorithm I was reading about. So if you only are preoccupied, or you're only preoccupied with your own project, with your own grants, you don't have the matching fund part of it. It's only the parts of the people interested in your project. But if you go around and sprinkle and pollinate micro contributions all over the ecosystem, the algorithm reads that you're doing the thing that
does the algorithm know that you're contributing?
Yeah, you're contributing. So the algorithm drives towards your grants a lot of micro investments from people that are searching for new grants, and they match, as Lauren said, between 2 to 3, 4 times the amount of money, the amount of micro contributions. Man, this is working. This is in the 11th round, right? And it has almost $1 million there at disposal to do this. And their last round, that's going to be from now on, 3 months from now on, going to be $1.5 million or $2 million. They're going to be, because it's working. It's already has.
We could take someone with very good math skills, and they could actually analyze this grant and do math and see how we could like incredibly magnify the amount of money by simply coordinating these groups that are already in it to vote for each other.
Yeah,
no one's thought of doing that
until the grant money runs out.
Yeah. Well, the quadratic, they call it quadratic funding. Okay.
Yeah, but you still have to get money from somewhere. Somebody still has to get money from somewhere, unless it's
but that's the thing. The money comes from the idle wealth of everyone, or you put your skills as a dev to develop it in parts, and the parts you access some crypto, right?
Okay.
Or it comes from various ecosystems that understands that this type of ecosystems magnifies, as Lauren said, any early coming project, right? So it can come from, actually in Gitcoin, it comes from Uniswap that has billions, comes from a lot of ecosystems that understand that this type of ecosystem that has thousands of people, it's a very collective intelligence driven and evolution versus right. So I'm telling you this because when we put Tao Dao, that is a very Dao culture experience. It's not technological, as you guys know. I said to Tibi, I don't know if any penny, well, anyone will deposit, will make any sorts of micro contribution or micro investment to Tao Dao because it doesn't have nothing related to Web3 or dApps or NFTs or things like that. And I was surprised, Anthony, very surprised how folks got around. They were curious to know what this is about, and we ended up in this 11 rounds with $737. What for Tao Dao is a huge amount of money. So it's interesting to see, man, how this type of ecosystem can burst really early coming projects. It doesn't matter from where it comes, right? So, and when you look at the number of people that baked it, let's say Tao Dao's grants, it was 94 people, TB, 94 people over 4 continents, right? For coming from the Americas, here South America, United States and Canada, Europe and Africa. Africa, no, it's Asia, not Africa, Asia. So very interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
so I think there's.
But you see, the thing that I just want to make this last observation. I think that you guys know that I know me a little bit by far now, but I'm not enthusiastic about fiat money, right? I'm not enthusiastic about dollar, euros, or reais. I'm enthusiastic to Buckminster Full it out. I'm enthusiastic to recreate new types of wealth, new types of money, new types of social peer-to-peer technologies, right? And I've been doing this all my life, right? But this is the first time that I see something very, very interesting that is interwoven collective intelligence, but doesn't do this in a very extractive mode, right? It doesn't do in an extractive manner, let's say, and really uses the fiat money to burst all the new types of economies, all the new types of monies that running on blockchains or holochains or even without chains, right? Like the case of Tao Dao, right? So that's why I'm very enthusiastic about the idea, and I'm very enthusiastic about Laudin's idea too. So that's it.
Yeah. So, well, my concern, Lauren, when you speak about that, is that's cool. So we have these these mechanics, right? Quadratic funding, whatever, crowdfunding. Then that's great. My concern is coordination. You know, from my experience, if you just leave things to the crowd, it takes a high threshold of, let's say, some sort of high threshold of incentives for the crowd to swarm in one direction.
Yes.
And
yes, it doesn't just happen. I totally agree.
Yeah. So in order to, so that's why I think for lower energy stuff, we need this kind of services, which I don't propose to be very systematized. What I'm trying to do here is to create a category that people can understand and identify. Okay, so I need some type of resources, okay, funding, let's say, and I'm not alone in this world. Actually, there's some people that dedicated their time for that and put their skills together. Okay, knowing that there is within the ecosystem somebody that could come to rescue when I need them. Okay, another community service that I put in Sensorica is outreach. How do you grow your community? How do you attract attention to what you produce? There's a lot of people that make wonderful open source prototypes, put them on the web, and or wonderful open source software, that nobody finds. Okay, we live in abundance.
And then, but it's also that people don't pass it around either. Like it's a larger community problem, right?
Yeah. So outreach is another one of these things that needs to be organized as a service within the ecosystem, you know. But that's how we see nature too. If you look at a forest, you know, they're pollinizers. They go from flower to pollen. Not every flower pollinizes itself or develops its own methods to pollinize. They have a service. They have an ecosystem service provided by what? By a bug. You know what I'm saying? That goes and pollinizes everything in the forest. So that's the type of thing that I'm thinking about here. But people know that there is such thing. Okay, so they can identify. Now how they organize, that's organic. They decide, you know, if they want to build a toolbox and they want to have templates and methods that they share so that they can recycle fast. Okay, we wrote a grant for I don't know, for this particular organization. Well, we can just save some templates, and whenever we have this case again, we save half of the time because we pull out the template and fill in the blanks or adapt it to the situation. Whatever they want to do, if they want to create templates, a toolbox, if they want to create the methods, you know what I'm saying? Whatever they do, they do. That's not micromanaging this team, but the whole idea here is to say, let us get used to this new thing. Let the ecosystem go to the next level of integration. And instead of being just a gas of individuals running in different directions, you know, have some dedicated role and services that are known. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That are known because nothing is known, and
some infrastructure.
Yes, yeah. That's our problem. You know, we need to recognize and push it further. But only if we think in terms of ecosystem services. I think it's a huge plus. It's a huge, for us, it's a huge realization. And you know, building bridges, formal bridges, all that. Well, these ecosystem services, they utilize these bridges to go from one community to another. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like every time guys start to talk about ecosystems, what happens, I have noticed, is that then they go out and get funding for their ecosystem, and they're like, okay, so now we're going to build this interoperable ecosystem that everyone has to join. We'll be back with you in 3 years with the technology. Like, this is a stupid way of building ecosystem. I'm not going to name any names, but you know, I think we need, when we talk about ecosystems, there needs to be like human, that you need to start doing it without a special technology.
Yes, totally. Yeah, totally agree. That's why I said these guys could, maybe you get triggered by the term infrastructure, but it's kind of yeah, it's not infrastructure.
No, I wasn't even replying to you. I'm just saying this is how it always works. Like every time guys start talking about these things, oh, we need tools, and it becomes super complicated, and we need to pay the developers now and wait months and months for them to build us something. It's like,
yeah, I'm sure I remember saying that quite a number of times, but Sensorica is not like that though. I think that's one good thing about Sensorica.
right.
Although there are some tools and stuff that are specific to Sensorica, it is pretty open to the larger ecosystem.
Yeah, which is why I'm here.
And the things actually, you know, that they can respond to, can be very punctual, can be, you know, I don't know, Anthony's project, hardware project, Greens for Good, somebody else's project, you know, like they come where you are, and they offer you their skills in return for something else. Because if you want these people to do this day in, day out, I mean, they got to pay the rent somehow for as long as we live in capitalism. You know what I'm saying? If they move to Brazil and they meet Vinicius, they may contribute to that ecosystem, but at the same time be nourished and, you know, in a different way, which is great. But if somebody from that team lives in Canada and there is no such a support, peer-to-peer support, then somebody needs to pay the rent. So yeah, since they're generating money, they can keep a part of it, you know.
I mean, we can be super creative, like, you know, out of this WISP thing, I did this video, and one woman was just outstanding in her recommendation. Like, I did this video of endorsements, and she like blew everyone out of the water and was so charismatic and compelling. It's like, she should do that for everyone in the ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and as part of the grant writing process, there was a snafu, which is why I ended up applying just by myself. And my friend Alexar came in and he was like Agent 007. Like he just swooped in and he was like, I will help you. We have 3 hours to write this grant. We will get it done. Like you, there, that's a special kind of quality that he could help someone else in the ecosystem. Like someone else, all of a sudden they're like 7 hours to go to get, like there's an opportunity, there's 7 hours left, they need like impossible stuff done, call Alexar. You know, like that's not a service that's offered.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I noticed?
Like we have no fixers around.
Yes. My observation from my latest experience with the funding the Greens for Good project is that it's fairly easy to find some people working on you know, defining the value proposition and write the grant proposal, write the story around and all that. It's fairly easy to find these people. What's complicated and what takes a lot of time, it's what I showed you here. Let me show the screen again. It's what I showed you here. It's do you see it? Share. Okay, it's what I showed you here. It's to build a group. Okay, so some grants are very academia oriented. Some grants are very humanitarian, like United Nations gives grants to NGOs. Some grants are very networky, like crowdfunding and Gitcoin and all that. And some grants are very industry, you know, in industry technology transfer oriented, right? So how do you make a composition? Let's say Sensorica is here, okay, and there is a grant that is more about you know, that is more about technology transfer, let's say, okay, or innovation. Well, then you need a partnership with some intermediary organization, with academia. You know, how do you compose these things? The hardest part, because you can go for $25,000 grant, you know, just for your project, okay, some seed fund. You can go for that. That's easy. But if you want to go for bigger grants like 100,000 and plus, and maybe $1 million, then you need some backing. What I found from this experience is that what takes a lot of time is to compose your consortium. Go and call these NGOs, call these academic professors, call these firms, and put them together into an arrangement where everybody has some level of importance according to what the grant is. Is it a grant to transfer technology to the third world? Well, maybe you need a combination between maybe you need a combination between here NGO,
Tibi, this mapping, you have been doing this mapping since when? Or this is something that folks, the Sensoricans, came around and done this mapping.
I did this. I finished it 3 days ago. This is fresh stuff.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
because what motivated you to do this was the reaction that you have with this European impact funders that didn't know nothing about the commons.
No. We are look, so this is a grant that I'm going to file today. No, the GFI. So let me show you here. So if I go to, we have a machinery for funding. Funding. Okay. So we have already a team working on funding. Okay. So here's the working document for this team. It's development funding master document for Greens for Good. Okay. And here we have a bunch of grant proposals, okay, in different stages of so I'm going to send this today. Okay, this is going to be sent. Different stages of development. Okay, and some of these grants are pretty substantial. Like if you look at the agri-science program in Canada from the federal government, this is over $1 million grant. This is like $1.5 million. Okay, so in order to file these grants, you need to have partners, okay, potential partners. So we have some potential partner listed here. So we have to call them, you know what I'm saying? We have to call them and forge these partnerships. But before even that, doing that, it occurred to us that we need to see how do you compose? What is your chemistry? How do you compose this group? So for example, this particular grant, Agri-Science, it's a Canadian grant for technology transfer to the private sector. So you would need something where academia is strong and intermediate organizations are in. Okay, so you need something like, so once you know your composition, okay, then you go and look for partners. And for this particular project, we have a list of potential partners. Okay, this is our outreach campaign. Participants in Greens for Good. We have a list of partners. These are academic labs. These are, they're all listed here. They're NGO, firms, individuals, academia. Okay, so we call them up and we say, hey, we have this project and I think you should benefit from this project because this and that. And then they decide to join or not. Okay, and have a value proposition for all these type of entities. So just to see what it means to have a team that recycles on funding activities. It's not just writing a grant proposal and, it becomes a trade. It becomes, so for example, okay, how do you
Tibi, just a second. This is very interesting. So I get the feeling that this is your life's work, right? I get this feeling. This is literally your life's work. Not only driven by you, of course, there's a lot of sensorics doing this, right? And but the thing is that you came up, the Sensorica environment came up with this grant machinery, let's say, that has the social intelligence between the actual ethos of the society as we still are, right? To connect the dots and to viabilize or to viabilize any type of the dimension of grants, or of course related to the commons, right? To the peer-to-peer movement, the commons and things like that. So this open source, let's say, ecology, the environments that we have all over the planet, right? So my question is, if Utopia that is doing its thing as a cultural DAO, that it's trying to make it more open to anyone and wants to, let's say, not scale up in a very startup way, but in a very cultural interactive DAO way.
Mm-hmm.
Would Utopia could in this wormhole that we're starting to, let's say, to craft here, mm-hmm. Would Utopia could be, let's say, subjected to this graph machinery in Sensorica?
Yes, yes, because Utopia, what it can do, okay, it can be the outreach, or in the classical world, the advertising component of a sourcing activity. So let's say we want to source a project. Sourcing means get people to work on the project and attract some financial resources and maybe some material resources. I don't know, some tools, some equipment, some space to work in. Okay, so you need to do outreach. You need to let people know what you're doing and incite them to work. Okay, so the situation here is this. Okay, who's going to produce the content? Is it Anthony that has his hands with, in the lab, tightening the screw? Okay, who is good of making a nice video and projecting the values, the ethos of this project, talking about the impact that we have in society and so on and so forth. Okay, so let me give you an example here. Okay, how would we talk about Sensorica? So here's, okay, just bear with me for a second here. Look. So what you would say here is that, in the normal classical market-based transactional economy, okay, Sensorica is represented here, which is a private company, produces this machine as a product, and it exchanges it. Okay, so let's say the community needs a solution. Sensorica, the private machine, creates a product and gets the money from the community. They sell it, okay? Or they sell it to an NGO and the NGO give it for free to the community.
Okay.
And this thing, okay, works with NGOs and academia to innovate, produce this product and sell it. That's what happens in the classical economy. Solutions are commodities, are products. And then you tell the story of Sensorica. Well, Sensorica doesn't sell a product. Nobody sells a product. We provide a design for the community to make it themselves. It's like a 3D printer that you make it. So that's the
But it's not entirely unsimilar, right? Like,
sorry?
you could say the product was a design, right? Like, there's still some parallels, don't you think?
Well, I would not call it a product because a product rings commodity in people's minds. It's something that you exchange on the market. This is not to be exchanged on the market. These are Linux. We produce something that people can use. That's all you say. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you go with this story and you create a nice, you use UCAST, okay, which is a media arm of this machine. So I say, we create Linux. We worked with NGOs, we work with academia, and we work with some companies too. And they all provide different things, ideas, network. They talk about it, scientists, students, companies, they can provide some money, some engineers. We all work together to produce this thing here, okay? That is a commons. That is a common. We're not selling this. We're just releasing it to the world, okay? And then you make a case for funding. You can make a case for, but you make a nice video, you make it shiny, you make it, you know what I'm saying? So you would write a story, but who is to write this story? Who is to make the video and edit the video and make it nice and have these little flowers going around? So Utopia would be like a sort of a peer-to-peer media system. And let's say somebody from the ecosystem decides, wow, that project is interesting. I'm going to gather some people and talk about it and focus on how is this going to impact communities in Africa or in South America, okay? And this is not a product. Guess what? This is not a product. This can spread virally because it is designed not to create a dependency on the company. It is designed to emancipate the community. They can make it themselves locally, right? So this is not a product. We're not selling anything, okay? But so Utopia, UCAST can be the media arm of this kind of high impact operations that the peer-to-peer ecosystem is producing, you know? So we're not advertising, selling, hey, we have a product, we can solve you all these problems, who wants to buy? You're not doing advertising. What you're doing, you're communicating about impact that this ecosystem here is producing. And this ecosystem is put together by who? By Sensorica, which, you know, they call the NGOs, they call the universities, they call the companies, and they say, they convince them to work on it. This is what we're doing here with the funding. You know, we're calling all these people here. Yesterday I was working the phone. I was on the phone with a company from Quebec that is involved in innovation, okay? And we put notes here, action items. So we call all these companies here, but somebody has to do it. You see, Lauren, somebody has to do the call. Somebody has to sit down and work the spreadsheet and say, okay, today I'm gonna call Rebellious Foods. Who are these guys? Go on their website, go on their LinkedIn, find a guy, find a phone number, and phone him. You know, who's gonna do that? If you don't have a dedicated team, I think it's just gonna fall through the cracks.
Tibi, there's something, I don't want to derail this particular train of thought. It's we can return to it though. I hope we can stash it in our heads for a second and return to it. It's a slight deviation. It seems like you've got this list of grants and you're going backwards from what the grant writer, you're inferring what the grant masters want, and you're going backwards to give it to them. Is that not entirely, like, is there not some truth to that a little bit?
Yes. So first of all, yeah. So here's the workflow. If you're on the workflow, we have a funding list. Okay. So here are the funding agencies. There's funding agencies in the EU. They're listed here. This is part of our toolbox. there are funding list agencies for Horizon, a specific EU program which is called Horizon 2020.
Okay.
There are funding agency for South America that give money specifically in Africa, in North America, worldwide, and here you can find there's crypto funding too. So yeah, for Africa, for example, you have UNDP. We just had a meeting with them the other day. You have anyway, all these things. So what do? Let's say we do, and we say, okay, let's file a grant for UNDP. Okay, we have priorities here, so you can match in terms of priority. Okay, I want to see what is the lowest hanging apple. This is the workflow. That's how a team should work. You know what I'm saying? What is the lowest hanging apple? Okay, well, this is scoring very high. What is this? Okay, reduce poverty and inequality. This is the FID. Okay, cool. Fund innovation development. Nice. So I read them and I say, okay, the workflow is this. We have a project. We found a funding agency. It scores high. Now they require some sort of composition. Okay, they require Sensorica to be in partnership with some other organizations. So you go here for the composition and you say, okay, we need an NGO and we need an academic partner. So then we go to participants. Who's the NGO and who's the academic partner? And then you phone them up. All these in green have answered positively. And there is somebody that takes ownership of this relationship. Okay. So then they phone them up and they leave comments here for everybody to know. That's Stigmergy. Okay. So then you go and you write a proposal. The team writes a proposal. And as you write the proposal, you send it to your partners. And you say, hey guys, okay, we have a draft. Now, can you guys come and look at it? You know, the longest time it takes to forge these relationships and have these guys, your partners, have them on board, signing up their name to this thing. Okay, that's the longest and hardest part, you know what I'm saying, of this thing. And then you just file it. Okay, that's the workflow. You know, you find the source of funding, you make your composition, you work your phone, create your consortium, and then file the funding. That's the workflow.
Okay. It seems like the grant masters are expecting these consortiums to already exist. They don't, are they expecting people to respond to they put this grant out there, they put the documentation on the nature of the grant out, but they're not trying to encourage people to start consortiums. They expect them to already exist, right?
Anthony, just a sec. What Claudian said a while ago about people building their own ecosystems. Yeah, they're building their own ecosystem with their own advisory board, their own people. They sell a vision, so you have to adapt that vision, right? So these groups of impact investors, they say, oh, we have an ecosystem that can support you, but you have to adapt to their vision. You have to adapt to their metrics, to their processes. So it has constraints, right? Has energy constraints, really. Energy constraints, because your willpower to make your project feasible, make your project happen, has to adapt to their institutional, ecosystemical willpower. How do you understand? And what Tibi is showing us here is something that can talk with everyone, right? Can do this interdependent movements to create interdependency without breaking up, let's say, the ecosystem logic of this impact fund investment or venture. Did I get this right, Tibi? Did I get this right? Because I understand that you're talking with every player in the society, right? You're talking with NGOs, you're talking with entrepreneurs, you're talking with city governments, you're talking, and you have a dedicated team, as you said, that energizes, that catalyzes, that weaves all of this and makes this happen, right? Makes this grant.
Yes, and but you know, it's from my experience. So once in a while I work with the European, once in a while I work with the European Commission, okay, and I'm part of the judges, and we give away millions of euros. I worked for a Horizon 2020 grant. So as a judge, when you read proposals, one of the questions is, you know, are they responding to the objectives of the grant? The grant has objectives, right? Are they responding to objectives? But another important question is, are they able to deliver? Okay, so when you give out $1 million grant, you want to know that these guys have the skills to deliver this complex project, and that might come from a very complex organization or a composition. Okay, so usually what you find a consortium of 10, 15 organizations. Some of them are academic labs, most of them. Some of them are technology transfer organizations. Some of them are NGOs, and some of them are even small communities and companies. Okay, I see IBM sometimes on proposals and all that. So now you see, do they cover everything they need to deliver what they propose? Okay, do they cover the science aspect? Do they cover the technology transfer aspect? Do they cover the I don't know, the monetization of the value capturing aspect of it? Do they have a company? If they don't have a company, then it's just an academic exercise. And if the grant is about technology transfer to the market, you need a company. If they don't have a company in the consortium, they will not effectively transfer their science into real economic growth. Okay, so looking from that perspective, that's how I set this up. You know, you need a composition in order to respond to the grantor. You know, if whatever they're asking. Some grants are specifically science, perfect. Then what you need is Sensorica in partnership with an academic lab. That's all you need. You know, sometimes the grantor asks for impact into the developing world. So then you need an academic lab that does the science and validates the whatever we do, but also you need an NGO to connect you locally to these communities that will use the thing, okay, in order to increase the impact. So then in the composition, you need an NGO or 2 or 3. The more the merrier, maybe. You know, so yeah, so that's how you need the whole workflow, because there's somebody giving you money with some strings attached, with some demands. If you not meet these demands, you don't get the money, period. You know what I'm saying? And then I have this other thing, which is you know, if we suck milk from the same breast, we forge strong relationships. So if Sensorica files a grant with Utopia, let's say, and we feed from the same pocket, then these communities will start to integrate their processes strongly, and they form symbiotic relationships because they feed from the same nipple, right? And then there is a fraternity that is forged. So yeah, part of the exercise is also to say, well, the Sensorica has a network, but why don't we pull, I don't know, Lauren with her thing into the same grant? Because by forging this relationship, we build some type of capital within our ecosystem. We build relational capital. We build interoperability as capital. You know what I'm saying? That allows us to become better. So that's something to be very mindful. A lot of people in our ecosystem, they get the grant and they just eat it themselves in their little corner. You know what I'm saying? Which I think is totally wrong, because we're not building this extra capacity, okay, in our ecosystem, and we shoot ourselves in the foot every time we do that.
Yeah,
because we're not able to form these larger structures and go for larger grants, you know.
But that what we're talking here about, Tibi, is actually evolving this grant machinery plus the OVN, right? The Open Value Network, that I think that's quite of the software, let's say, of this grant machinery in Sensorica environment, like this open environment of Sensorica. Yeah. But if you have an endeavor like Utopia or endeavor like Taudao that actually enhances this capability to expand and include, right? and mutually give access to other resources, man, the sky is the limit, right? Because we're kind of forging here in mimicking not an ecosystem but an ecology, right? An ecology of organic organizations, let's say, or decentralized organic organizations,
Yeah.
that are seeking the same goal, right? The same goal, to actually establish interdependent relations and capital relations, as you said, and not to only get it to for your project, for your endeavor, right? And
Yes,
oh,
yes,
thanks,
yes.
oh, thanks, guys, that was nice. Okay, no.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
but here's the picture of the wealth transfer, Vinny. This is the picture of the wealth transfer, and we can see the peer-to-peer aspect. The wealth transfer is that we're not into getting money. We're not into getting money from whatever to make a product and make money in return. These are transactions. These are not wealth transfers. What we're into is get money, cash, to create something else, to create commons, okay, to create commons that anybody can use, and forge relationships and social capital with forge ecosystems, strengthening ecosystems. It's wealth transfer. It's burning money to create something else, commons and relations. It's not burning money to create more money. You know what I'm saying? We're not here. So that's why this is wealth transfer. You know, it's like, give us money, give us money so that we can create other type of wealth. Commons that everybody can use. It's not a product. There's no transaction here. You know what I'm saying? It's social capital and technology for good. That's all it is. So we're burning money to create this. You know what I'm saying?
With grants as a central feature, or not necessarily grants, but as responding to the calls of
yes, grants. Yeah,
you use primarily grants
because you have to. Because we have to pay the rent for the lab, and we have to buy screws, and none of these companies and landlords agree to have some equity arrangement, or you know what I'm saying, or some I don't know, or
which makes perfect sense. But it's like, it seems to me that you're assembling a collection of teams, these consortiums, which are capable of responding to the requests of grant organizations, which can be quite flexible. Some of them, like Gitcoin, can be grassroots, so that it doesn't put all the power in the hands of the governments and stuff, which is good. But it seems like
yes.
It's like does that make sense? Like, just trying to make sure that I understand what's going on here.
Yes, we have a list of organizations, and these are our elements, and then we create a recipe.
Okay.
we have categories of elements: NGOs, academic labs, private institutions, intermediary organizations. We have these 4 categories, and in every category we have real organizations. And then you say, okay, the grant asks for this, let's make a sauce and sell it to them, which is, let's speak from our 100 organizations. Some of them we have talked to, some of them we haven't called yet, but we have identified, and sell them this project. Okay, so then you do some, you do consortium building, which is sometimes it's you talk to them for the first time. Yesterday there was a call, it didn't work well. This is a group of engineers, and I used the template. I said, listen, I'm looking at your page. We have common ground. We both have an environmental component, because they're like engineers for environmental solutions for the industry. They want to provide engineering solution for industries that are environmentally friendly, right? So we said, we're both about engineering and innovation, and we're both about sensitive to the environment. That's our common ground. And there is some complementarity here. The way you do innovation and the way we do innovation is completely different. So that complementarity can bring us to synergy. Let's talk together and see if we can, if this can work hand in hand, like your top-down approach to innovation and our bottom-up approach to innovation. We work grassroots, you work with with engineers, okay, and companies. Is there a middle ground? Okay, so I spoke to this guy on the phone for an hour. He was very nice. I was very nice. We were not, we were just exploring, brainstorming. Very nice, top engineer in this firm. And that happened yesterday. And in the end, he says, you know what? I don't really see it in our reality today. He says, it sounds very interesting what you guys doing. I don't know how to translate it into profits for us now. Then I came up with an idea. I said, well, there's a problem in Quebec. Farmers, their kids are leaving. Nobody wants to work on the farm. So the answer to that is automation. So in order to automate farms, maybe the best way is to do it democratically, to use open source technology so that they're interoperable, it's low cost, you know what I'm saying? So it's the best way to automate farms cheaply, it's to use freaking Arduinos and open source software. And I say, maybe we can work there because there's government grants to automate farms, and we can work with open source communities. And you as engineers, you can be the validators and all that, so you can get a part of a grant. And then you can find a way to sell parts to these farmers and go there and service their equipment, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Can I say something?
Yeah. Anyway, so just to finish the story, that's all. So we do that kind of groundwork. Yeah.
So this is just an example. Like my husband in Niger, he finds himself in very favorable conditions, having like great connections with the government and the president and all of this. So there's an opportunity there to pass like major legislation and get major grant funding that no innovative people are funding. Like the European Union gives crazy money to Niger, and it's not like Shuttleworth. I am sure the competition for applying for this is not great. Like, not a lot of people with vision. But think of like, if we could put together to match this opportunity, a really visionary open source solution with all of these like sensors and stuff like that. Like it's just like, but Sensorica would never think of that because there are no connections with this country, right? So I'm just saying, in an ecosystem, you have the opportunity, and then you say, okay, what can actually work with this opportunity? What can we bring together that normally would not be connected? Because normally Sensorica would be like, okay, let's like look for grants in Canada that fit this thing. Maybe if you're looking at it from another perspective, you could see things that like opportunities that our groups would never see.
Yes, for sure.
What's the perspective that you're thinking of? You say another perspective. Do you have one in mind? You're thinking like global, I guess. But
yeah, when you start to bring like some random people together that aren't in a bubble, okay, then it's like, oh, then we have connection, and to think about the opportunity first, and see what are the hottest opportunities, and what is the low-hanging fruit in the ecosystem where someone just knows someone and they have an opportunity. And like my husband in Niger, it's just like a limited opportunity, of this government that's there. There could be a coup or they could be voted out, but there's just like, this is opportunity. It is now. And there are things like this all the time, like the Gitcoin grant. The opportunity is now. If we can just mobilize to do this, we can grow the pot.
Yeah, no, definitely that could.
No, actually, Tibi, there's going to have the last Bitcoin round of this 2021. From now on, in 3 months, I think it's going to be. We're on September, October. It's going to be in December if I got it right. So we can actually put not Taudal is already in. I already put Utopia there too. We can put Wisp there too. We can put Sensorica there too. We can put your endeavor, Anthony, that actually I want to know more about.
Yeah.
I'm curious to
I'm always
understand
happy
it.
to talk about that.
Yeah, we could in Gitcoin environment, Loudon, we could come up with what they call collections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we bundle up as a collection, and wow, it's
That
going
would
to be
be, yeah,
huge.
that would be nice. That would be nice. We can work on that. And I would propose to go even a little further and think about it. It's like, if we have a funding machine within, which again I see like grabbing money from capitalism, burning it, and creating commons and relational capital, right? Um, if we do that somehow, if we do that somehow, we can also impose some. I propose some conditions that goes with our ethos, which is, what if we take a portion of that and burn it in a different way to create peer-to-peer culture, to create, you know what I'm saying, the social tools that you are developing. What if we pump it into, what if we pump a percentage systematically into not just creating technology and commons, but also the living arrangements and the culture that you are doing, Vinicius? You know what I'm saying? Because you're creating, you're creating the living habits of people on a peer-to-peer planet, right? You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of a form of commons, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yes. But people don't know what the heck is going on with the on the peer-to-peer common planet. Let's say Sensorica is very oriented technology, right? Commons as technology. Okay, but you are doing the social work. You know what I'm saying? So people understand in their minds what peer-to-peer is, and they sort of become that individual, right? It's very important because we need citizens of this world. And now what we have is just immigrants. You see what I'm saying?
Totally.
The pot has not
It's
melted yet. We just have a bunch of pebbles.
yeah,
But the
yeah.
pot has not melted.
It's interesting. It's interesting what you just said, because I don't talk about the commons, even about the peer-to-peer paradigm with anyone that I'm interacting, right? And I'm doing co-creating Taodao, co-creating Utopia, co-creating a lot of other endeavors. And like the global, the global experimental station for open science and peer-to-peer social technology that is behind all of this peer-to-peer organic decentralized endeavors, that is Taodao, Utopia, and other things. Well, man, I have been doing this for ages. So since I got to know myself as an adult, right? So this is something very exciting for me. What you just said, Tibi, relates totally for the type of life that I already have, right? And it's exciting to see that we are in this tipping point, right? Really, this crossroads, tipping point, that actually we can expand this, we can include this, not for thousands of people, but even as Laudin was talking, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people, right? So we have this opportunity. You see, Laudin, for me, the great opportunity is this the type of scaling that we're talking here, that relates to collective intelligence, and relates to the changing habits of how you live in this planet in a more regenerative manner, right, than an extractive one. Wow, this is huge, and that's what we're talking here about. At least at my perspective, my understanding, when we're calling wealth transfer, wealth sharing, or anything like that, right? And for me to be the most relevant aspect of what we're talking here is the shift between anthropocentric worldview, human-centric worldview, to life-centric one, right? Where we can embed ourselves in nature's environments, at least finally, before thousands of years of creating our own industrial and technological ecosystems, let's say. I won't say artificial, because they're not totally artificial, right? But they are apart from nature, right? Not symbiotic with nature, not with synergy with nature, right? So it's nice, man. You see, but all the things that I have been doing are in a very micro scale, in a very peer-to-peer interactive fashion. That Taodao, for instance, I don't like the word impacting, right? But it's impacting at least, let's say, 15 families. I would say 15 to 18 families. that's a very micro scale, right? But for me, something like Taudal really is happening all over around, not because when I see over around, we're not in one city. There's 15 families. So the global perspective is not a local one. It's not a global one. So a global one, like Bowen say cosmolocal, right? Tibi, cosmolocal. But he says this is a very technological sense, a very common technological sense, not in this more cultural change. Habit sense. Kind of excited. Forgive me. Yeah, that's it. So, what you folks suggest? I think that the first move to make, as Laura suggested in the beginning of this touchdown, is let's first. I see two moves here. I could be wrong, but let's get more acquainted. I think for Sensorica TV about Bitcoin platform, and
Yes.
and for you, Anthony, it would be nice to understand more what type of endeavor that you're managing, you want to materialize in the world, right? And you quite I don't remember you sharing this exactly with us in the past touchdowns.
Okay.
So it would be nice if you could you could share a little bit with us now. And Lauren, let's put WISP there on Gitcoin too. So and let's evaluate how this movement that your husband is doing with Niger. We can have any connections with all this movement, all this, let's say, transfer, all this transition that we're doing here together, right? So, Anthony, please, man, if you can share with us.
Sure, I'd love to. Thanks a lot for the invitation, Vinny, because I think about this for a large fraction of my days, but I rarely talk about it with anyone. And the thing is that I'm a little bit concerned that in a way, it's a deviation from our main subject. So we talk a lot about these very important things for constructing commons, getting the infrastructure worked out, social factors, getting grant money. And I exist in a different part, which I think is rarely mentioned, but it's still a critical ingredient in our soup. It's the technical part, which you eventually, sooner or later, you have to have this, not a product, as Steve talks about, it's can be a service or it can be a technology, but sooner or later, you actually have to have the thing, and somebody has to actually do the work and make it happen, which is surprisingly complicated. There's so much stuff that goes wrong all the time. And the way we talk about how the infrastructure doesn't seem to be there for a lot of the things that we want to do also exists in the technological domain. Everything you want to do, from making just the basic mechanical parts, is surprisingly difficult in many ways because the foundation hasn't been laid before. So like there's a lot of foundation that has been laid, and it's amazing how much has been, but it's still not enough in a lot of cases. It's just the gap between how much work it takes and how much you need to actually get somewhere and move on to the next stage is quite substantial. So my project is it fills the same role as a 3D printer, except that the parts that it can make are much higher quality in a wide range of ways, or that I expect it to be able to make, because I haven't actually produced it, but I think it's pretty solid. Like it's probably going to work out pretty well. It's not really
you
speculative.
have done a lot of experimentation with the process, right?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of experimentation, but the reality is the main thing is it's mostly based on milling, which is a very mature technology. So you deposit a thin layer of material, a couple of millimeters thick, then you subject it to a milling operation. And then you deposit another layer of a different material, the support material, a couple of millimeters thick, and you subject it to a milling operation. So you remove material very precisely and selectively. So it's pretty reliable. Like it's just the deposition part, and the deposition is not too complicated. So I'm fairly confident it's going to work out. But anyway, so we're going to make a mold. We use the mold. You fill the mold with wide range of materials. It can be plastics, it can be metals, it can be glass, even it can be fiber reinforced plastics. And then you get a highly accurate object out of it. You disintegrate the mold, and then you have the part that you wanted. But people think there's not much point to it because we already have 3D printers. But like I have a part here on my desk, which I printed yesterday. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you can see how messed up it is, right? Like this is not going to work out very well. And that's not a well-tuned printer. It's not a great design. The part could be improved in many ways, but it's clearly not a very accurate part. This got all the ridges on the side. You can see when the light reflects off of it. What you really want is when you see the object in the CAD file, in the Fusion 360 or whatever it is, you want it to be as close to that as you can. And the closer you can get it, the more potential there is. If you can get it really accurate, you can make bearings and stuff, which are great and last forever and don't make any noise. You can make gears, you can make valves that seal, you can make hydraulic pumps, you can make all kinds of stuff. But you can't do that with 3D printing right now. So I come from a machining background where we make high quality parts, but their geometries are extremely limited because you have to be able to get the tool in there. And the materials are quite strong, and the whole process is very slow and expensive, and it wastes a lot of material. So I hope I've answered your question reasonably well, Vinny. My project this is why I need you guys so much. You know a lot about getting grants and collaboration with other people. And that's where I'm lacking, right? My approach generally has been to do a little bit of everything to get a very small organization which can produce some demonstration parts. And then I have the machines and demonstration parts, a little bit of software, a little bit of everything, so that I can produce a little bit of something. And then grow that by getting more collaborators, grants, might be venture capital. So to apply get some Gitcoin going on, maybe do Indiegogo or something. Kickstarter doesn't work very well anymore, apparently, but Indiegogo might be a little more promising. Can get on Patreon, post regular updates, all that kind of stuff. It's a whole job in its own. That's why you really need collaborators. Like there's just so much stuff to do. Even a humble piece of technology is remarkably difficult to develop. People think it's easy, but it's not, because we're so surrounded by all this stuff all the time.
Anthony, if I understood well, this 3D printer is a very low-tech one.
I wouldn't really describe it as low-tech. We use milling machine. There's no lasers, and there's no advanced chemistry or
it's
other
known technology. Let's say it's well understood and known technology.
Yeah, it is strongly that way. There are some details, like the main challenge. Well, there's two main challenges. It's the software, which you have to, like a slicer for the 3D printer. It's a little bit different than a slicer, so I can't just use the slicer. And the second thing is that the materials, there's the support material and there's the build material. They have to stick to each other. You have to be able to remove the support material by, for example, heat, or you can dissolve it. And then you have to finally be able to remove the mold from the part. So there's these, they have to be compatible in quite a range of ways, and it gets a little bit difficult to find these pieces. But yeah, it's pretty reliable.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Could this be used? Sorry for the dumb question. If it's dumb, but could this be used in a place like Cuba or something? Because I'm like, why shouldn't Cuba have 3D printers? They have all these like old cars and old broken machinery. It seems
They
like
do. I know
Yeah.
the guy in Havana who had a shop, 3D printing shop.
it
Oh, do
seems
they?
like it would be incredible in a place like Cuba or Venezuela or something to have one of these 3D printers, because they desperately need these like little plugs or these little parts to make their whole like machines, because they have all these like old crappy machines that just have like need a part replaced, but they might be too old, or they might, not be able to afford, but it's like things just don't work anymore because of this little part. And like that technology in places like this would be amazing.
Yeah, actually, thanks a lot for asking that very intelligent question. It's actually gets right. You've stumbled across one of the critical things that motivates me and has led to the development of this project, which is that there's a Fab City initiative, which is all about being able to manufacture everything a city needs within the city itself, instead of depending on a very long, tenuous global supply chain, which doesn't work very well in a lot of cases. There are many other initiatives to do more localized manufacturing and more grassroots manufacturing, and otherwise just get traction on this problem of being able to either make, repair, modify stuff like cars that we depend on so much. Cars, houses, clothing. We're thoroughly dependent on it.
Anthony, do you have this open source ecology perspective?
That's like, I really launched this project back to like 2014 or something, is when I really decided I wanted to spend a lot of my time doing this, when I spent time at Open Source Ecology. And we were always banging into the wall of, you need a part. You cannot have that part. You can go on Amazon, or you can go on DigiKey, you can go and try to find some source of the part. And 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna be able to find exactly what you need. So you have to modify your design and start all over again. And so there's electronic parts, there's materials, plastics, chemicals. There's a lot of different things you need to make good stuff, but one of them is mechanical parts. And I can't do everything, so I focused on mechanical parts. And that's where my background is. And it is thoroughly motivated by the problems we were encountering during the efforts that we undertook at Open Source Ecology. So a big part of the motivation is to get to a place where we can do what we were trying to do at Open Source Ecology, but actually do it in a much more effective way.
Interesting, because your take, man, remembers me back 15 years ago, at least in 2004 or 5, when I was talking here in Brazil about starting a type of open hardware movement, because actually a lot of folks here in Brazil has this, remember the word gambiarra?
Yeah,
I do remember that.
It has this gambiarra driver, and they actually perfect little pieces. They reverse, they remake some things, and man, there's so much pieces and technology and equipments that are being used, even the conventional little factories, let's say, or assembly lines. That is, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. But I start to do this, but I got involved with other explorations, and I didn't focus on it. But now you're talking here, and I say, wow, this is huge. This is huge, because you see what you're just sharing with us here, Anthony. It's very alike what Sensorica does in a very social institutional way. It's like to focus on the parts and make the parts become a machine, right? A machine to function. You are very related to the hardware problem. This is very hard, right? You're very related to
and I recognize it's only one brick in the wall. Like Sensorica, for instance, is they're attacking the general problem more so. Like if you see what I'm saying, does that make sense? Like they're attacking the larger scale issues and the general problems, but in order to really get somewhere, we need a large number of parts, and one of these parts is the production of mechanical objects. And so I recognize it's only a brick in the wall, but I think it's a sizable brick. Like it's a bigger than average brick.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think that's awesome. And remember, Gambiarra turned into I added System D to that. Do you remember that?
A system what?
System D.
System D.
System. So there's a saying like in Africa and in France.
In Africa, yeah.
It's like D stands for debris. Like it means like you MacGyver something, like you take some bubble gum and some duct tape and you like solve a problem. And yeah, so the Africans call it like system D, and I was like comparing that to game B, which is our collective intelligence. It's like when white people go into eco villages and they're like, we're creating the future. And this is like just another vision for like really cool bottom up development where you start, you know, like like a lot of the city movements are super like high tech cities, which are, you know, only going to work in like Europe, you know, or maybe China, where they can build something from the top. But like this I think that's an amazing thing, is that allows for bottom up development in a way that is not just I don't know, I just see like an amazing possibility for what that can do, and like a vision for that.
For what the machine could do, or the resulting machine, or the
Yeah,
collection
like
machines?
just having the whole thing, like having a printer like this with something like Sensorica, you could just start like a trend, an idea, or a vision of, because I'm just looking at like in these like developing countries, it's always like no one has any cool visions. It's always like, oh, we have to get this investment to, you know, like right now in I'm looking at Niger, and what's going to happen is these American companies or European Chinese companies are coming in with their proprietary software, and it's going to be like the petroleum industry, but then with solar. It's not new. It's like I can see this already. It's like, ugh, and the USAID is like, hey, we even wrote some legislation for you. It's all done and in a package. It's like,
Yeah,
no.
it's astounding how little change occurs, like how little innovation there occurs, even over very long periods.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it just starts with having a vision and seeing something different. Like you could have, like it could go a different way, you know?
Yeah, I hope I've actually thought quite a lot about this. So the interplay between being able to make good quality mechanical parts for the first time in history at a low scale, like with small amounts of capital, would enable organizations like Sensorica and the people who are within that community to produce improved quality parts, and that increases the motivation to do this kind of work. So then it increases the library of parts that are going to exist, and then it becomes easier and faster to produce good quality stuff. So the ball can really start rolling in a lot better ways. Right now we have Thingiverse, for instance, but you hop on Thingiverse and say, okay, or you need something, and you go on Thingiverse and say, can I get some stuff? Like this motor coupler is actually, I had that experience. There's several different motor couplers on Thingiverse. You're making a complicated machine. There's 100 different parts. You need one part at least. And the library is just not very good. But it's partly because we can't make stuff, that the library is no good. There's no motivation to make good designs because you can't make anything anyway. So once there's a better motivation to make stuff, there will be more labor hour going in, and it's going to be much more interesting. So it's really the interplay. The machine is not that interesting on its own, but when it gets into the larger ecology, I think it will have this nice snowball effect. But it's going to take, the depressing thing is it's going to take a while for it to become popular. Like you get one machine, okay, well you need like thousands of machines before the ecology really starts to explode. But you got to get there some way.
I do wonder when I'm listening to us, is like, again, when I'm thinking about a country like Niger, where there are all these like European funds and stuff, it's like, could we maybe apply for one of these funds when there's so much less competition than it, like some of the European fund, like the competition, like I just looked at the Shuttleworth grant. It's like 1 in 100 shot of getting accepted, and everyone has like an amazing vision. Maybe we should look for
We
different sources of
identified
funding where.
we identified EU grants that are specifically designed for Africa.
Mhm.
And I'm looking here, I have 7 of them coming, most of them come from Horizon 2020. They're specifically designed for partnership between some European countries and Africa. And we have identified grants for Africa here. So we have a list. Yeah, we have a list. And we could formulate something. We have partners in Tanzania. We have partners just for this project, but we can recycle them to other projects. Tanzania, Kenya.
Guys, we are already blown our timing here. Yeah, but because it's very, I think that we finally got to a place that we see convergence, right? Convergence between what we all do, and it's interesting because I know that people over Utopia are in tune with what we're talking here. People over Taudao are in tune with what we're talking here, but they're not here, but they're in tune. And I know that in Sensorica that happens too, right? There's some Sensoricans that comes here eventually. But what's the next pace? What's the next step for us, right? What's the next step for us to evolve these touchdowns? And we really come up and craft something very interesting. I think that we lay out today the foundations of what we can do together, right? So I'm asking, what is the next step, right? What's the next step for we to evolve this? Because you see, as Louding, I'm a very, and Anthony and you, Tibi, I'm too a very practical and pragmatic guy. So I love to explore horizons and perspectives, and yes, re-signify what is well for the 21st century in a very commons and peer-to-peer regenerative manner, but how we can put our hands on and start experimenting. What are the suggestions? I have some, but I want to hear you folks.
I mean, I'd like to start by getting together, by bringing in Vincent again, and with Trove, which can allow us to visualize the network and the ideas in the network and see like what's there with Tiberius's documents, like his procedures. And I think those two combined will just be like mind-blowing together. To actually like implement them together is just, you know,
yeah, for sure. We can have a work party on that. We call it a work party, meaning we get together and instead of just talking, we'd actually do stuff.
Yeah,
set it up. I'm up for it. And Vinny, I would very much like to get on Gitcoin. I don't have experience with it, so if you can, we can do a session about putting Sensorica there and form a group.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
So that you can bundle this as a group, so we can conceptualize a group.
I would ask Louding if she has the time. Louding, could you evolve us from this Google mailing list to the MailChimp thing? And and the last mail that we put out, hey, about the Earth, because there's a lot of guys, hey, Cambiatus, they're doing amazing stuff, right? Abundant Earth Foundation is doing amazing stuff. Cambiato is doing amazing stuff. And Green Fab Lab, as you know, is doing amazing stuff. Hey, folks, we finally came to this place. We finally found a way to work together. Could you do that, Louding? Would it be so nice?
Why does it have to be migrated from one system to another?
Yeah, because you see, man, I really don't like the Google environment, myself, right? And it's very private. It's very I don't really like it. And the mailship thing is, as Laurie says, is more fluidic. You have more. You can put you can come up with a very beautiful email, and you can sum up things. You can put I don't know, graphics and things like that. And I don't know. I just feel that we're going to, let's say, upgrade the way that we are making our weekly communication with the 30 folks that are around us, right? So
I haven't been getting emails, eh? Am I on the list?
I didn't put you,
Okay.
man, in the list.
Yeah, put my email ID.
But Anthony, forgive me, man.
Okay.
Forgive me, I didn't put you. Lauren is going to put you on the list now.
Okay,
thanks a lot, guys.
can I please just make a motion
Yes.
that we stop with the wealth transfer and do like something like reimagining wealth initiative,
Okay.
which does not make us sound like communists, please?
Sure.
Reimagining wealth is good, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay. So, folks, that's it. Kisses for your hearts. I love you. Love you.
Okay.
all.
Thanks, guys. It was good to see you again.
Yeah.
It was a great session, right?
Yeah.
Like
That was
fantastic.
really, really good. Really good. So, see you next weekend. Work parties. I'm here. Tibi. Work parties.
Okay.
I'm here too. Laurie. I'm here.
Bye.
Anthony. Let's go. Bye-bye.
All right.